It's so good to see you. I love your shirt.
Thank you, my brand.
I know. That's why I said I love your shirt. We're going to get into all of that, do all the plugs, have you talk about your brand, everything amazing that you've been up to. But first, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us on Black Travel Talks. I'm excited to catch up. So I'm gonna listen, your Instagram already. I'm like, John is just doing it. Like your Instagram is so motivational and inspirational to me. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us. Um, so we met almost 3 years ago, and I feel like you've grown so much since we've met. I'm so happy to see you fulfilling all the things that you talked about as a content creator. Um, you are the epitome of freedom and what it really looks like. So it only made sense to feature you on Black Travel Talks Freedom Edition. And so I kind of want to kick off the interview by asking you, what is your definition of freedom?
Woo! I don't know time. Um, that's a lot to unpack. What is my definition of freedom? I think first, the ability to be your most authentic self, I think, is a good definition of freedom. Um, I believe another definition of freedom, I would say, is a place where you feel safe. Um, we have this idea, as being American, especially as like Black Americans, right? Like we're free, we're coming up upon Juneteenth. But when we really look at all the things that we've dealt with since Juneteenth, the initial announcement of us being free, I don't know if I can really say that we've actually achieved that from a standpoint of all of the things that um, the Constitution has promised us as citizens, And so I think, if we're looking at it from a trajectory of being Black in America, what freedom is to have all the rights of the Constitution. Mm. And then also have a right to live and not be gunned down or hunted down. One, because we have too many people with guns, or two, because of our color. So, freedom for me is finding those places and spaces where I believe that, one, I feel safe enough to be my most authentic self, a place where I am nurtured and developed and cultivated, and not just a place where I'm put to survive. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge difference, right? Recently, maybe in the last 2 years, I changed my motto. I was like, I'm going where I'm appreciated and not tolerated. Mm-hmm. And I think so much of what freedom is, right, is having the ability and the wherewithal to know what spaces are what, and what they're needed for, and I'm not anti-American, because there are some great benefits of being American. One of those is having an American passport, which has allowed me to travel as, extensively as I have, but also understanding that that may only be the vehicle that allows me to find my true freedom. And I don't believe that is found in the US for me.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And I think you are sharing, a lot of people share your sentiments. And I'm hearing this conversation of tolerate, appreciated, not tolerated. And yeah, that was a that was a gem.
And I think it's important to know that two things can be true at the same time, right? Because I think there's also this notion that, with nomads and travelers, that we'll be like, oh, we go to this place and this doesn't exist. And it may not exist for us, right? Mm-hmm. So recently, during the pandemic, there was a young lady who was kicked out of Bali. And she was kicked out of Bali because she wrote an ebook and telling people how to move to Bali. And she was talking as a Black woman, how she felt it was much easier living in Bali, how she felt a sense of freedom. There was no guns in Bali, so the violence level was just very minimum. She was also part of the LGBTQA community, and she felt safer there. And then there were people who were like, well, there are people in Bali getting their arms chopped off for being gay. And it's like, two things can be true at the same time. So I think we have to, when we also talk about freedom, we have to speak it through the lens of our own being, because what I may see as freedom for me could be bondage for someone else, right? Or as freedom for someone else could be considered a dream. Like, that's not even plausible. And so I think it's also understanding what it looks like for you, and that may not be the case for everyone who's having that same experience, And so I think that's important to also highlight that two things can be true. There are people who look at the U.S. as a place of freedom. I was having this conversation on my way back from Egypt with a young man from Cameroon, and how they view coming to America as a place of opportunity. And I was like, it's very interesting. A lot of Black people who are from America don't view it that way, but a lot of Black people who are from Africa, they come over and see America as that opportunity. And so it's just those things where it's like two truths, right? And it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just that we all have our own realities that we live in, and they represent what our interests are, what we care about, what we're passionate about. And so I think that's also important to note, that there could be two things true at the same time, and it doesn't take away from someone else's story or add to another. It just is their truth.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers. There's definitely a lot of layers. Thank you for that beautiful response to the intro question. So I'm going to back it up a little bit, because I did touch on, we met just over 3 years ago. And John, I think you had like approximately or over around 3K followers on Instagram, and you were working in corporate America. Since then, I think you have like 10 times that number, and you now work for yourself. So can we get into how you were able to grow your brand in that time frame, how you were able to replace your job and income with your passion of travel?
Yeah. So, like a lot of people in 2020, I found myself furloughed. And I remember the day it happened. It was like March 21st. I got the phone call, sitting on the couch, and I had an agreement with my leasing agency. They had like a rainy day agreement or something like that, if you lose your job or something. So I went to them and I was like, hey, based on this agreement, if I leave by the end of the month, I won't owe you guys any money. They're like, no. I was like, bet, let me get out of here. So I packed up all my storage. And then I came to Atlanta and lived with a friend for 2 months during most of the lockdown. And as we know, America, she's just so ghetto to me.
Listen.
Back ghetto, we had people storming their state capital for haircuts. Dealt with Ahmaud Arbery. We had George Floyd. We just had, just a lot of different things that were happening to the fabric of America at the time, and such divisiveness that was being spewed from our leadership from the top down. And so I was just like, I need to get away. I need to find a place, of freedom, a place to kind of figure out what my next move's going to be. And then if you remember, at the beginning of the pandemic, no one wanted Americans because our numbers were just out of control. And so I found myself going to Tulum. And the funny thing about this is, I don't think people really appreciate the power of affirmation sometimes, and like being able to say something and then actually doing it, and knowing how powerful that is. And I think our generation has been more actively doing and affirming things than maybe the ones before us. But prior to that, I used to put like my next destination. So for example, if I'm in Atlanta right now, I was like Atlanta today, and then my Instagram would be like next trip Tulum or next trip. And in January of 2020, I had a chance to go to 4 countries. I did Australia, Fiji, New Zealand, and the French Polynesian. And then when I got back, I said next destination Tulum. Crazy. Had no plans, no flight, no nothing. The world shut down. And the only reason I even know this is because at the time I used to take screenshots of my page like every, 3 to 4 months just to see how I was growing. Just
Mhm.
because at the time there weren't the analytics that we have now to see. And so I was doing that. And so I found the screenshot and I was like, what? In January of 2020, I said my next destination would be Tulum. Before the world shut down, before COVID, before any of that. And then the next place I actually went in July of 2020 was Tulum. And it was,
Yeah.
what? Like, you couldn't make this up, So I found myself in Tulum. When I got there, I ended up meeting some other Black expats. And at the time, there weren't a lot of us. And they would tell you when I first got there, I would speak to every Black person because it was
Mhm.
so. And then it was like at some point, somebody hit the switch and it was a whole family reunion.
Yes, yes, it's just
And so that's kind of, how I ended up in Tulum, just needing to get away from the US and having nowhere else really to go. It was on my list. I was like, well, let's do it now because I knew what the US was giving. And it was like, it can't be any worse than this. So
Mhm.
bought a one-way ticket and just flew down there, not knowing anything. But it kind of worked out for me. So then my first night in Tulum, I ended up meeting my business partner.
Mm.
Uh, and was a relationship that was forged for my entirety of being there. And we ended up like all hanging out. And then it was like 6 or 7 of us expats just living there, hanging out, doing things together. And then that's kind of how Yacht Club company was birthed as well. But in that time, I said to myself, what can I do that will allow me not have to ever go back to work for someone else if I don't want to?
Mm.
And I think oftentimes growing up, in America, and our parents mean well, we're often not taught to rely on the gifts and talents that we have to survive. We're like, yeah, go to school, get an education, get a job. And those things are great. I'm not mitigating that those are not scary, and we need people, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need all those people to be well educated and informed on how to do things and help us. But oftentimes we don't ever teach people to lean into the gifts that are already innate inside them and how to develop, cultivate them. And maybe, yes, an MBA is going to help you with that. So you have the business sense of that as well. But how do we develop the artist and the creative in you and all those things? And so it was like, I had this time where the government's going to pay me to be off.
Yeah.
I figure out which ways I can use my creativity and all the things that I have, that if I don't ever want to have to work for someone else again, that I don't have to. So I started the John Robert experience. So I curated trips. It started doing just like, creating itineraries for people, being a travel advisor, especially for Tulum, because Tulum exploded. So everyone wanted to know about Tulum. So it made sense. I was living there to kind of help set people's itineraries and prepare those for them. And then once I had a yacht company, everyone wanted a yacht. So it was like the left hand was washing the right one. So it kind of made sense. And then I was like, I need something that I can make money in my sleep. And so that's why I was like, hey, a t-shirt that's about what I am. I love travel is my love language. It made sense for my brand. It made sense just for what I do. So I was like, hey, why not venture out into it? And so I was like, all these things were just happening at one time. But I think being in Tulum, away from all of the noise and distractions, was just allowed me to really have a good strategy and come up with ways to support and sustain myself that didn't rely on anyone else.
And you met your business partner in Tulum. That's crazy. That sequence of events is crazy, but it was fate. Like that's how it was supposed to happen.
And here's the thing I tell people. So right before I left for Tulum, like the week before, my job, because they furloughed me, and I was in hotels. And so in Atlanta, a position came open to do the same job that I was doing in Orlando, Florida at the time. And so a lot of people were like, oh man, that's God, like that's favor, like look at that, that's fate, whatever you believe in. And so I didn't feel that
You were
way.
like, yeah.
It was very, very interesting. And the one thing I'll say about my career, I've never ever had to struggle like my career. I've been blessed. I've gotten jobs that I've not even applied for. And I'm like, how did I even get my number? You know, so my performance has always been very smooth. I've had to do the work, right? But when it came time for promotion and, you know, moving through companies, it was never a struggle. So like for me, it was like, okay, it sounds good, but is it gonna make sense? And the one thing that I knew was that everyone who was working was being overworked. Having talked to my boss and keeping up with him and just maintaining a relationship. And he was also like, you know, everyone took a pay cut. They made it where even if you had vacation time, you could not use it. So if you wanted an additional day off, you had to take a day off with pay after already taking a 20% pay cut. And I'm like, why does this? And then they wanted me to go work at a hotel that actually was the busiest hotel in the company because we had a government contract. So it was less staff, but still just as many people because of the government contract, which never stopped. So I'm like, I'm going to do more work for less money.
Okay, right. Something's not right here.
Day off if I'm wore out or anything. And so when it came to the money game, it literally came down to $5,000. And I was like, I've seen this company throw $5,000 away. And at that time, the world was telling me or was questioning if I mattered. And the last thing I needed to do was go and devalue myself by working for someone who didn't see my value after I've placed my value within that company for years. And for me, like this is coming off of the year being nominated for Employee of the Year out of all, 4,000 plus employees that the company has. So it's like, you already know the caliber of the person you're getting. This is not someone off the street. And I was like, I can't afford to take the pay cut. And it was so funny because my regional manager, that's the first time I've ever told him no. And he was like, just take some time, think about it. I never picked up the phone.
No.
Think about. I was on the flight, and I had such a peace of mind about it. Now, some people at my company thought I was crazy. They're like, we're in a recession and people are losing jobs and you saying no to a job. And I was like, I'll be okay. Like, fine. And
and you are, look at you, right? Here you are.
And I don't say that to boast or brag, but I think sometimes we have to step out the boat. I am a man of faith. I'm a Christian, and I believe that sometimes God allows us to be in uncomfortable situations so that we can fly. One of my favorite stories is about how eagles learn how to fly. Literally, the mother tears up the nest, lets the birds fly, and sometimes they don't. And if they don't, she comes behind them with a beak and picks them up. And literally, that's how they learn how to fly. And I think some life brings us situations where we have to get out the nest and get out of a place that's comfortable so that we're able to soar and reach our full potential, because we could stay in the nest forever. And I think a lot of times that's what happens. We get in situations that are comfortable. They don't necessarily challenge us, or they're not even good, right? But because we're comfortable and we know the environment, we know the players, we know it, we just stay here versus, being an entrepreneur or going after a dream or, going to find a new company. It's like, well, I know this, I'd rather stay with the devil I know versus the devil I don't know. And sometimes it's like, maybe you can go somewhere and there's no devils, but you won't ever know, bet on yourself, and so to bet on myself. And I'm grateful that it has worked out for me.
Yeah, me too. And I'm grateful that we're having this talk, because I feel like this is going to resonate with a lot of people and they need to hear this. So thank you for sharing that entire story, your journey, your experience. I'm going to jump again. And I really want to talk about your content, John. It's bananas. And I need to talk about the inspiration for your posts. They're so unique. They're so captivating. I love your Instagram posts. So can you just talk a little bit about that? What inspires you?
It's interesting. I feel as I grow as a person, I see myself as an artist. anyone who knows me knows that I've always been a creative. I've always been in that space. That's where I excel at extreme levels. And so I felt like once I got rid of the idea of having to be what I thought people wanted, I think that was a big thing for me. You know, when I met you, I was very new to the travel space. And so I think oftentimes it's easy to like see what people are doing and try to simulate, you know, what you see. And I think what really pushed the dial for me was I was on a trip with some other creatives, and I think it's actually when I did my Black Lives Matter video, and they told me, they were like, John, I don't know that many people who think the way you think. And I think sometimes like we underestimate our own gifts, right? You know, and for a long time, I think I was doing that because I felt like everyone in this space had the same creativity, or like could take something and make nothing, or take nothing and make something out of it. And hanging with people who were my peers, who I respect, who were other travelers, and they're like, it could be us just taking shots, and I'm like, oh, do this. And they're like, I would have never thought to do that. Revealed to me that, like, you know, my gift was not, and not that I compare my gift to anyone, but my gift was definitely special, and how I create and see things. Some things come to me on purpose, you know, like I'll go to a place and I'll see it, you know, it's like, let's say the Eiffel Tower, like, okay, I want to get the Eiffel Tower when it's blinking, great, right? And then there's some things where I've been on this journey now where I go and just allow places to speak to me. I just kind of record. I don't know what I'm recording. Oh, exactly what I'm going to do with it. And I just let the creative space and process of being in that environment speak to me and tell me almost what I'm supposed to say and do. Like most frequently, I did the Brianna Taylor video, and literally that was, I mean, in my opinion, I don't mean this being arrogant, it was just a dope video, period. Like I'm swimming with turtles, right? Yeah. Like, yeah, that's great. But what can we do with moving the dial? And I think for me, after the Black Lives Matter video, and it did so well, it also allowed me to realize that, like, that travel is part of my protest, you know, because travel pulls back so many lies that we've been told. I mean, I think about when we were growing up, when we would see pictures of Africa in media, right? It would always be like these kids, eyes everywhere. Oh, you know, huds for $5.99. You can sponsor, you know, and and that exists, right? That is a part of Africa, but that's in Detroit, that's in England, that's in Atlanta, that's in Pittsburgh, my hometown. Like, you can find that in the US. You don't need to go to Africa to find that. And so it was like when I realized that I had an opportunity with my platform to do more than just expose lies to people and like allow this to be my protest. I also wanted it to be a level of accountability of, you know, because I think sometimes people look at access and think access removes your experience, right? So for example, one of the comments from the Black Lives Matter video, someone was like, oh, I'm sure he's worried about police brutality in this beautiful house that has a pool inside. I'm like, well, first, the assumption you made was that I own this pool. The police don't know that this house was mine, even if it wasn't, because they're not over at this house, right? Like, so, you know, the things that we enjoy or the ability to travel does not mitigate our risk as being a Black man or being Black in America. And so I wanted to highlight that. I think I wanted to expose what it felt like, and against the backdrop of being able to see other countries and see like all the lies that we've been told. And, you know, it's just like, the more you travel, the more you realize America is literally, I saw this meme, was like, I think it was like, America is the, is a third world country with a Gucci belt on. It was like,
yes, I've seen that.
and like,
and it's true.
It's so true. Like, and here's just an example. My friend lives in the UK, and so I asked, he got furloughed. So I said, how does being furloughed work for you guys? He said, so our company pays 20% of our salary and the government pays 80% of our salary. I said, wait, so you're making your full salary sitting at home doing absolutely nothing? He said, yes. I said, and we're sitting here arguing with congressmen and congresswomen who have not about $100, which, as you know, if you live in New York, ain't gonna do shit on rent.
Listen, nothing.
Listen, $100 for people who have not been asked to take pay cuts, who have not lost their jobs, but they're making decisions for everyday Americans, right? And so that was just an example of like, wow, you know, such a glaring polar opposite of what is happening, you know, in one country who's still dealing with the same challenges that we're dealing with. And so I think that's where my content has shifted to. I still want it to be light sometimes, because I feel like our reality is heavy, and I don't want people to think I'm remiss from that, but I also people of it as well. And I think that's a duty with my platform to remind people that, hey guys, I know Brianna Taylor's not trending anymore, but there's been nothing done, you know? So that same outrage that we had 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where is it? You know, and I think what happens in America is we just go through these leaps and valleys. Right now, everything is on mass shooting now. So now we want gun, which we know America's not gonna give us. You know, it's like, and in some regards, I'm sorry because this is all connected. It's like, you know, there are moments where that your partner may be like, actually acts good for 3 months, and you're like, oh my God, things are going well. You know, they're going to therapy, they stop drinking, and then something happens to remind you that this is that same fool that you've been dealing with that you just need to get away from. And that's what happens to us as Blacks in America. We'll end up having a Barack Obama moment, or we'll have a Kamala Harris moment, and then we'll have a George Floyd moment just to remind us, hey, you're still a Negro. Compared, you know, and it's those things was like, we have to make a decision, like, if this is what we want to tolerate. And one of the things I've really come to recognize in the last 6 months is that Black people are America's #1 resource.
Listen,
if we take our talents and time and treasure and take it to any country in the world, America would instantly become, I'm telling you, instantly, like, they would
follow us, is what I think. I think anywhere we pack up and go, they will follow us, because what?
Absolutely. Listen, I don't even think we recognize how much power we have. And I think we sometimes limit it to like entertainment and sports, and those things are great too. And we excel at those levels, but we excel at so many different things. So many things that Black people have invented and come up with, from even open heart surgeries and all those different things that we may not even think about on a daily basis, that if we took those gifts, even back to Africa, right? And those talents and our money and our resources. I mean, what we spent on travel alone prior to the pandemic would make us the 40th richest country in the world, just Black people. What we spent in travel, you know? And so it's those kind of things where for me, the conversation really has moved to say, how can we enlighten ourselves to create better for ourselves? And so I think that is part of the backdrop of some of my content. Also, I've just been on this voyage of really speaking positivity, and being transparent. You know, I feel like one of the gifts and curses of social media is that you are looking at someone's best picture. It's probably 5% of your life, right? It's probably 5% 10% of, and then we're comparing ourselves to a that someone took maybe 100 times to post one.
Mhm.
That's over 3 times, 2 filters.
Right.
You know, nothing, nothing against it, because I'm gonna make sure my pictures look good too, right?
Right, right,
But
right.
but I think what we've done is also made it seem unattainable, or seem that we are not human. And so I feel like I've been really cognizant of, talking about suicide with people, about my personal struggles with my weight, about my personal struggles with being confident, always being a thicker guy, and allowing all that to come out in my content. And I feel like that's really just been connecting with people, because we're all human. We all have our insecurities. We all have our own experiences. And I feel like when people are human enough to allow us in and show that, I think that does so much more for everyone, even
Mhm.
ourselves, than a false reality that, one, we can't, that's unattainable and unsustainable,
Mhm.
as that creative. And so I think my content has shifted somewhat to be more cognizant of what's happening in America, the struggle, me identifying still as a Black man who deals with the plight of being American, and
Mhm.
also loving myself, coming to being confident, coming to body positivity, coming
Mhm.
into allowing the world to embrace who I am, and me loving me. And I think that's such a more powerful thing than just a picture under the Eiffel Towers, or just, standing at the pyramids. Also just resonating with being a Black man and understanding what that means in the global scape versus just what it means at the backdrop of being American. I know I
Mhm.
give you a lot. I'm like, this
No,
is
I love all of this. And I feel like it just tied back to what you said about like two things can exist at one
absolutely.
time. You can see me out, I'm taking pictures, everything's beautiful, this is great. But at the same time, these are my struggles, these are my insecurities, this is what's going on, like you said, as a Black man, so I appreciated you bringing that full circle. Thank you. Do not apologize for all the dopeness that you are dropping and all these gems, because I feel like these sound bites are phenomenal. Um, I wanted to ask you, so I'm still with all of that and everything that you walked us through, with your content and the creation, does it get overwhelming at times? How do you avoid burnout? And that's just a quick side, because I feel like, again, that's the other side of it, right? Like, I'm doing all this and it's great, but like I need a break, or yeah.
Yes and no. I used to feel the challenge of, I let this go, but I used to feel like every trip had to have that one picture that went viral. Like,
Mm.
like that used to be my thought process. And now for me, because I'm just doing what I love and just allowing my essence to come through, it doesn't feel like work at the same way. And I don't have that same pressure on me. I also feel like at this point, I have nothing to prove to anyone
Mm.
in the game. So I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
The standard is push myself. I still, always want to be innovative and captivating, and want to make sure that my content from day one is, as good or better than it is now. But I also, because I don't work for anyone else, I'm also allowing myself more time to be in the moment. I think it's very different when you have 5 days, and you have to go back to work, right? Somebody's job. Um, like last year, I went to 14 countries, including Antarctica. Um, and some of those countries, I would spend a day or two just laying around at the beach or the hotel and just relaxing and just being in the moment. Because I think that's another point that I'll always tell the creatives. It's like, don't be so busy capturing the moment that you're not in the moment.
Mhm.
It's one of my things. I'm a big, anyone who follows me knows I always post dope music. And like, that's one of my things when I go to concerts. I'll see people. I remember back when Beyonce was doing her like stadium tour, and there was like this guy who posted the entire concert on YouTube from his phone. And I'm thinking like, did you even enjoy the concert? Like, first of all,
Right.
them tickets. First of all, Beyonce ain't coming for less than $250. So you done paid all this money to sit in
To sit
front
there and
to
record on
record
your.
for the rest of the world to see, And so it's like, even when I see my favorite singers, I may record maybe one or two moments of a song that I really wanted to have for myself, but I would really put the phone down and just allow myself to be there, enjoy it, take it in, and really feel the essence. And I do that with my travel as well now. It's just allowing myself to, like I said, let it speak to me. And I feel like that's has also allowed me to be more creative, but also allowed me to really like key into things that I'm hearing that I'm supposed to say as a messenger as well. So yeah, I can't say, it gets tiring from the standpoint right now. Like I'm living out my suitcase, and some days you just wish you just like, I just want my own bed to lay in. But from a standpoint of being a creative and creating and coming up with ideas, no,
That's great though. I feel like that means that you're right where you need to be, right? All right. So, John, you are up for an award with Travel Noire. Can you talk about that? And then also tell people how they can vote for you.
Yeah. So, I don't even know how I was nominated, but thank you, whoever nominated me. I appreciate it. I'm nominated for Dopest Male Traveler, I guess amongst, the community. You can go to Travel Noire page, and there's a place to vote. You can vote for me, and actually you can vote for my Yacht Club company too, because we're nominated for best. I don't want to give it the wrong title. What's the title? It's tour operator. Yacht Club company is best tour operator. So it's crazy because I'll say that I strived for this day, for these moments, right? And a little bit about me. There were times where I believe that like my content was just as good as people who were being pushed, and I felt I was overlooked, or felt like there was a lot of politics in the travel world. And it's funny, I think when you shift what your focus is on, things just come to you. And my focus definitely wasn't that on this award, or and so I am definitely grateful, and I think it's a tremendous honor to be nominated amongst some great people. Actually, one of my closest friends is actually nominated alongside of me. So just to be respected by my peers and the travel community as someone who creates amazing content, I think it's an honor, and I'm grateful, and that is enough, honestly, for me. But still vote, and we'll see. Either way, I think it's already a win, and I'm just grateful to be literally living out my dream, And as someone who met me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, of me talking about the things that I wanted to do, and, seeing how they've just aligned themselves appropriately. I am grateful. I don't that as I'm not haughty or arrogant. And you've met me, so you can speak to that. I'm just a very down-to-earth, genuine guy.
Absolutely.
Who loves people, who loves travel. And so I'm just grateful to be in this space that I am, and I don't take it for granted. And I know that I'm tremendously blessed. And I always want to have that posture. So I would love everyone's vote, but at the end of the day,
you're ready. You're already winning. You're already.
I'm already winning.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. All right. So you mentioned Yacht Club.
Yes.
And I want to switch and talk a little bit about that. Can you talk? I mean, whatever you want to cover is great, but even if it's trips that you've hosted past and future, what type of experiences can your attendees expect? I mean, just give us Just give us a little bit, John. How is your experience different? I mean, I know you're gonna touch on all of this, but
Well, Yacht Club is it's very funny because Yacht Club, I'm going to give you a little secret. This is not even a lot of people know this story, so this will be fresh off the press for you guys. Yacht Club started because my business partner, the founder of our company, was trying to talk to a girl.
I love it.
We were at Taboo. If anyone's been to Tulum, they know Taboo. We were at Taboo for a beach party, and this Instagram model walks in, and like he shows me her picture, and he's like excited. I'm like, I don't know this girl, but cool, whatever. And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to bag her, and I'm like, cool, bro, like go for it. So the first thing he does is unfollows her on Instagram because he doesn't want to look like a groupie. So he goes over there, he's talking to her, and she's like paying him attention, but like not at the same time, you know, like those kind of conversations where you like someone is talking to you, but you can tell that they're not all the way in.
Really? Mm-hmm.
And so he just drops the bomb, like, yeah, I got the shot. I'm going out tomorrow. You know, would you like to go out? Like, of course, I mean, mostly anyone was going to say yes to a yacht on vacation. Why not? For free?
Right. I'm there.
So the scramble happens because there was no yacht. So now he's calling around, calling different companies, trying to find a yacht. He ends up finding a yacht, gets the biggest shot that's out on the water, takes her out with her friends. They have a good time. And while he was there, he met the yacht owner and asked him, hey, do you work with any other companies, you know, or people? And he's like, yeah, we have, you know, Airbnbs that send us business and XYZ, but we don't technically have like a company that does that. And so he was like, oh, this is a business opportunity. So what we are, we're like Airbnb, we're like Uber. We physically don't own the yachts. We just connect our customer to the product. Mm-hmm. And it's all about being in the right place at the right time. Tulum happened to explode. It made sense. He brought me on as a co-founder because he already knew that I was connected to the travel community. One of my biggest growths that happened was when I was in Tulum. When I got to Tulum, I think I was like at like 5K. When I left Tulum, I was like at 12 something. I just exploded because I was like posting all my stuff in Tulum. And so that's how Yacht Club Company came about. And at the time, if we were honest, we were like, oh, this is some cute like side money to keep, to have, you know. Mm-hmm. And then we got an article written by Travel Noire, and they were so gracious to write an article about us. So thank you, Travel Noire. And that opened some doors. And then we got the Essence article. Mm. It was like, okay, like we're a legit business.
Yeah.
This is no longer, you know, ice cream money, hot dog money, margarita money. We have an opportunity here. And so that's how we started. That's how we were formed. And so now we're moving to now having our own host on the boats. It's just a vibe. It's very different because it's for us biased. So we try to curate an experience that allows each customer to have what they want from the experience, you know. I think a lot of other people are like creating experience, and this is the experience. But we're like, hey, what kind of music you want? What's important to you? We ask our guests those things. Mm-hmm. And they actually are able to control those things themselves, which I think everyone loves, because I think most times people like to control their own vibe. It's like bringing your party to the boat. And I think that's what makes us unique, is that we're like, hey, bring your party to the boat and we'll elevate the experience. We'll make sure it's a great time, but bring your party to the boat. And so it's been very successful. Like any business, we're learning, man. We were novice in this. This wasn't what we intended on doing. And so we're learning daily. We're being stretched. We're growing. And and we have some things in the works. So look out to see some new things coming from Yacht Company in the next few months. But we're excited about our positioning in the marketplace and our ability to expand, and also just create an experience that is for our people. And oftentimes where they don't get a chance to, put their money back into the community or back into a Black dollar vacation. I think that's dope and one of the hottest destinations in travel right now. So
yeah,
that's kind of how that company came about. That's kind of our business model. What we do, we tell you bring your party and we elevate the experience.
Amazing. So I want to ask you about, I know with the John Robert experience, you have a trip coming up, or you have.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want you to talk a little bit about that, and I want to be respectful of your time as well. So after that, I just have two questions. But tell us, I want everyone to know all of the things, all of the great things. So can you touch a little bit on your other business venture and what's going on with that, and
My
what
other
makes
baby.
it unique? Yeah.
So I started curating my own trips, and this next trip I'm doing with Said Trippin', we're going to Morocco. What I find is a lot of people are doing budget travel, and that's great. Like, there's people who want to do that. But I don't find a lot of people who are actually doing luxury travel for people my age groups. You have Up in the Air Life, who does an awesome job. Shout out to Claire. They do, luxury travel, but they have a little older demographic. And so what I was looking to do is, like, when people look at my page, one of my mentors, she said to me, she's like, I see Black luxury. And so that's the expectation people have. And so I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And so I wanted to create an experience that allowed people to have those same experiences that I was having, and have a Black luxury experience. So, my dollar is a little more, my price tag is a little more, and I'm okay with that. Because of what we offer, typically you're going to be at nothing less than a 5-star hotel. The level of service you receive. We also always hire a local tour guide who handles everything from currency to if your bags are lost to rebooking your ticket for you. And then also helping you develop and create amazing content. People who want to get into the content creating space or just want to have those pictures on vacation. And so coming on a trip, we kind of expose all those things to you. It was so funny. I met a young lady on my last trip, and she was like, I wanted to come to your Kenya trip, but it was out my price range. So I did go to your hotel, and I tried to get that picture, and I couldn't. And I was like, yeah, you can have the recipe. You can have the recipe. And the thing is, the biggest thing for me is that my guests see the value and what they pay for, right? Chick-fil-A is unapologetic about their nuggets being $10. You can go to McDonald's if you want 99 cents. Nothing, right? So that's how I am. It's like, I'm not looking to be McDonald's. I know that you could
you can get that.
For less. Yes, you can go and have a Happy Meal. Or you can go and have real chicken, and so I respect everyone where they are. And I believe the reason why we have different businesses because they touch different markets. But me, I wanted to create a space that felt like luxury, where people didn't have to worry about a thing. Once they get off their plane, they knew that there would be a car waiting for them, taking them to a luxury hotel, being set out for them. All they had to think about would be the outfits they wanted to wear, where we have photographers, professional photographers come in, take shots for them. We help them create content. We help them with understanding when to post, how to post. It's almost, a travel workshop of, if you want to be an influencer or just really feature luxury travel, how to do it. and I feel like also, we help with teaching people how to edit. So there were people who came on our trip, said to the trip to Zanzibar, and I joined them, and they were like, man, we didn't realize how much work this is. You appreciate your post so much more knowing the back end of what you guys do as far as like changing outfits in the middle of the street and things like that. But when it comes to, so there's two different trips. This trip coming up is a content trip, so it is more of that, right? But we've picked some of the best destinations for you to get content at. We're going to go from Marrakesh, staying at some beautiful riads, to going to the Sahara Desert, staying at a wonderful luxury camp, taking you through Fez and Chevron. So I do those two different type of trips. There are the trips that are, we call them, content trips, where they're designed for those people who want to get content. And then there are my luxury trips, where just people who like, hey, I want to relax, get away. I don't want to think about anything. This is the money I asked for. I want to be pampered the rest of the time. And it's been working out for me. I would love to have more and more people, but I'm also comfortable at where I am in this current season, because I just believe that your customer will find you. You just continue to do things at a level of excellence. And so that's where I am, where like, I'm just making sure my level of excellence is there, knowing that everything else will line itself up.
As it has been. Listen, I might be on a John Robert trip soon. I need the experience.
Have a Talks discount. Come on.
Come on now. All right. So just a couple more questions. This has been great. Again, thank you so much for talking to us, John. Like, I just feel so inspired. Your spirit, everything. You're so genuine. It just shines through. And I feel like even just through everything, through your brand, through your posts, through you feel it. So thank you so much for sharing yourself with us. All right. Now, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but many of us, many brothers and sisters, they think that international travel is too, it's dangerous. So I'm going to back up a second. I was in Playa del Carmen last week. And when I tell you, mind blown, like the whole Black community that was there, all the expats that were like, girl, you're not living right. Live on your terms. Do what you want. Just living life unapologetically. And I was like, I would have never known. The cultures everywhere. There's Biggie, there's Tupac in the hotels, there's the Jamaican jerk hut, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. And I feel like, they've been trying to tell us that we're not, but we're here, and we are comfortable, and we're supported, and we are uplifting each other. So how do you think we can get more of us? And I'm going to say with an emphasis on Black men to release their fears, those preconceived notions, and get them to travel more so that, they can experience exactly what you're talking about.
That is a challenge. I think
or just any thoughts you have, and I'm not saying there's a right answer, but any thoughts you have on it.
I think that's actually one of the challenges and things that I want to be part of, being the solution to that, right? I think the biggest thing for Black people, just generally speaking, is we go where we see ourselves. That's why Tulum exploded. Before then, we were going to Bali like crazy, right? There's always, if you follow how travel works, it's like a few people go there, we see ourselves there, and then we're like, okay, if cousin Nene's there, I know I'm gonna be
there, right?
Let's pull up. They had so I think that's the thing for Black men. It's important for them to see other Black men do it, right? And then it makes it seem achievable. And I think that's also going back to my thing of like also having conversations about just life in general, because I think sometimes we make things seem unachievable. I think the sisters can always help, because that always
your friend is a good testament to that.
It's an incentive, right? This is how Yacht Club company was started. But I just feel like I also feel that the more we show what we could live like. You know, I think one of the beautiful things about Playa, and I love, even though I'm a talloomer, I love what
Yeah.
Playa, uh, it's so rich and so full. And it's, like you said, it's very communal, you know, and it's like the thinking of the people who live in Playa is very, very different, you know,
Mhm.
people who are like, who are opening to like never coming back to the US or understanding that this could be their normal, and coming back to the US as a necessity, you know,
Mhm.
and or weddings and things like that. I think we just have to see what are our possibilities outside of the four walls that we live in. I think, and that's with anyone, right? When you're able to see what's achievable, then you know that it's there for you. I think one of the biggest things that made me want to go to South Africa was I was on Instagram and I saw this other Black man in South Africa. And I was like, man, this is stunning. I've never seen anything look like this before, you know? And so that made me curious about South Africa. And this was earlier on when I started as a traveler. And so I told myself, I was like, the next destination I'll go to has to be on the continent, because I think oftentimes, you know, even as travelers, we'll start in the Caribbean or Europe and we'll be like, oh,
Mhm.
I'll save, you know, Africa, you know, for my later numbers. But it's like, no, tap in early.
Wow, yeah.
All those things play. Um, I think as a Black man, there's a lot of different things plaguing us. And sometimes we're not even able we're on such a survival mode that we're not even able to lean into our humanity, right?
Mm.
And and what that means for us is that we can be so fixated on the problems in front of us that we're not even able to see that there are other things that we could be enjoying, or the fruits of other labors that we could potentially have. And so I think it's just being a mirror for our brothers and sisters and saying, hey, there's more than, you know, being on the block in New York, or, you know, there's more than going to, you know, local places that experience the world, experiencing everything it has to offer. Hey, as a Black person, you're no safer in America than you would be in any of these other countries.
Mhm.
Uh, no one, not even just from a race standpoint, just from gun violence. I mean, let's look at that. There's not any place in the world that goes into schools and shoots up kids, except for the United States of America. This doesn't happen
Mhm.
anywhere. Like
And
that's
we've been these, it's normal here now, or it's been normalized, and it's not. It should not be. This, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We're not even talking about that anymore. We're on to the next thing, because it's like you said, it's just another day in America. I mean, when you have 300 mass shootings so far this year, it's like you're averaging, we'll probably end the year with 2 a day. And it's
Right.
just, oh, okay. And we'll do nothing to solve it. Oh, we should build schools with one entrance. That makes perfect sense. So now the idiots can stand at the entrance and shoot everybody as they come outside, right? Or if there's a fire, God forbid, now everyone has to come out of one entrance. Or I can go into the school and stand at the entrance and wait for everyone to come because they
Come
hear
out. Right.
like
Doesn't make
we do
any
everything
sense.
to address the issue. So to my brothers and sisters, if you're listening to me, you know what America is. You've seen her. We have a
Mhm.
resume. Go out, try something different. If it's for 4 days, if it's for 3 days, if it's for a month, America will be here when you come back. I promise you.
Right.
Once you realize that, I feel like that will allow you to explore and see more. And that's what did it for me. I'm like, I know what this is. I know if I get to over there and I don't like it, I can come back to
I'm back.
this.
Yeah.
But explore, see it, do it. You owe it to yourself to know that there's so much more outside of the States that you don't even have to just live and survive. And here's the thing, travel is not always expensive. Be
Mhm.
places where the dollar has greater value. I mean, the reason why our brothers and sisters living in Playa del Carmen is because the American dollar is 1 to 21, right?
Mhm.
So if American money live in Mexico, they're living better than most of us are living, and they have money to spend.
And they have more. Like, yeah, there's, you know.
She has her 2 bedroom apartment. She has a 2 bedroom apartment with ocean view in Playa. She's paying $800. There's
Oh
nowhere
yeah. No.
that 2-bedroom with an ocean view that you're paying $800, right? So it's
The
like,
gas is $6. It's about to be $6. Enough is enough.
yeah, at this point, try something different. I promise you. And it may not be for you, but at least you tried it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you explore, travel is one of those things that just continues to reward you. It's a gift that gives back, and you learn so much about yourself. So that's what I would say to my brothers and sisters who are reluctant to travel. To my brothers who are scared to get out, man, get out. Get your passport. For no other reason, when America asks ghetto, you can leave.
Yeah. Listen,
And for
that's
no
what
other,
I'm like, just have your passport on standby because you never know when we have to make a move
listen,
and we all need to be able to leave when should
right.
it come to that.
Yeah.
A quick thing to your point. Now, when I go to other countries, they're actually like, we don't understand your struggles, but we sympathize. And I've actually met in St. Martin, I met a local who said, I've boycotted going to the United States until they stop killing us. And he was visibly upset and emotional about it. And I was like, ain't this some, we are like America and we're going other places and they're telling us like, come, he's like, come home, come to a place where there are people that look like you, that love you, that accept you. So again, to that accepted, not tolerated, it's just, yeah, it's
And
very eye-opening.
it's funny to say that because even when I was in Egypt, I met a mother and son. They're from Holland and they're white. And they're like, we just don't get it. Like, it makes no sense to us. And I'm like, it makes no sense to me.
John, this has been great.
Thank you.
To wrap it up, and again, I feel like you kind of touched on a little bit of this, but do you have any projects that you are working on, partnerships? What are your goals over the next, couple of years? Just give us where your vision is right now.
Where my goals are. So, I have a lot of things, a lot of different things I want to do. One of the goals is to be on television, which I'm actively working on that as we speak. I can't speak on everything, but yeah, I'm actively working on that. So I would love to be on television. Really, just have. Ultimately, my goal is I would like to have my own travel show. That would be lovely. So anyone out there looking to give me a travel show, just let me know. But I want to continue to push the dial. I want to continue to, create more content, and also just meet other content creators and collab. I think there's so much power in the ability of bringing people together and sharing stories and our shared experiences. And so that's one of the things that I've been looking to do. I've been connecting with people from all over, because I think it's interesting. Oftentimes we see Black as a monolith, sometimes because we're limited to the scope of the US. But it's so amazing when you meet Black people who their first language is French or their first Spanish or their first, and they look just like you and I, and they open their mouth and you're like, wait, I wasn't expecting that.
Right. I wasn't ready.
So I love that. And I think I have to be really careful how I say this, but if there was any gift that came from colonialism, would be that it has created such a potpourri of what Black looks like, right? Mm-hmm. So, someone can be from Antigua, or it can be from, Ghana, or it can be from Argentina or Peru and look like you and I. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's so beautiful. And so I want to start telling those stories that are different, that are connected to that the diaspora that we may not always think about because we're always looking at it through the lens of our experience. That's something that I'm actively working on, and just connecting with just other travelers and content creators that have the different backgrounds that are still Black. I'm actually working on my next shirt launch. I have this is going to be the traditional one, but I have other stuff that I want to play with. I really want to create a functional travel clothing brand.
Mm.
I feel like it doesn't exist. Really what I would like to do is have Nike come sign me. Um,
Nike.
Nike,
Yeah.
Nike, get on it.
We're gonna tag them when we post this.
Because I'm not gonna even tell Nike because I don't want my idea to be out there and then y'all get it for free. So y'all call me, have y'all people
Yep.
come.
Yeah, we just know that the ideas are there, they're percolating and
are there that you guys have yet to tap into that a market that would bring you tons of money. So yeah, just want to get into some apparel, continue doing my trips. Yeah, and just kind of see what the universe brings. I'm a person of intentions, and I think this year I haven't traveled as much because of other things that are going on in the backgrounds of my life. But next year I really want to hit the ground running and really do some more exploring. I would like to get to every continent. I've been to every continent. I would like to get to every country. That's ultimately my goal. I'm one of those weirdos who wants to touch foot on every country's soil. Definitely want to tap into more of Africa. And I've really been pushing Africa. I haven't been to Europe since the pandemic. I've really been going back and forth to Africa, and I just have such a pull on myself to just expose all the beauty that's there in Africa. I would like to also live somewhere else for a bit. So I'm considering I have to go to Tulum to handle some stuff for Yacht Club. And then I actually plan on going to Bali for maybe 2 or 3 months and just living somewhere else. And I think in that time, I will kind of manifest and figure out what the next steps are for me. And I just think that's so important for people to find your quiet space where you go and you can get away from the noise and like tap into who you are and your divinity. And I think when you find that place, it will allow you to map out, what your life will look like or what you want from your life and find purpose and moving the dial that direction. And Tulum was that place for me. Tulum is just a healing place. I know it gets a lot of people who are going to turn up. But if you live there and take some time to live there, it's very spiritual. And it's weird because it's one of the few places in the world where there's water running under the ground, no matter where you are. That's why they have the cenotes. It's that spiritual connotation that there's always water flowing, which means, it could be newness. It can be, always, there's never going to be lack. There's so many things you can take from that. And so, I encourage people to find that, whatever that is for them. It could be just, going down to your local river and having quiet time and writing your journal. You don't have to go to Tulum. Right. So I think that's what Bali is for me. I have some dreams, or I want to do a Finny show with Rihanna. So Rihanna, you have your people call me too. I just feel like it's on brand about positivity, and she has all body shapes and sizes. I've already bought some Savage Fenty. I have some pictures and some of their stuff. So people call me.
Looking forward to the content.
So yeah, I just want to continue to expand what I'm doing. I have some other passions of mine that I want to get back into. Like originally, I have a performing arts background, so I would really like to take some time to get back into that craft. And I feel like based on how things are happening, they're all lining up for that to happen. So yeah, I'm enjoying life and taking it one day at a time, not taking myself too seriously, and just living a life of being grateful and manifesting and working for what I want and trying to be a better version of myself every day. So yeah, that's what's next for the John Robert.
I love it. Thank you so much again, John, for taking the time, for being a part of this series. I want to ask you to plug your social media sites right now, your website. Just give the people where they can contact you, where they can find you.
The TheJon Robert on Instagram. You know, I do the John Robert. Not too confused with the. Or other ones, I don't know any other ones. And then my website is thejohnrobert.com, so the same spelling. You can also find me at thejohnrobert on TikTok. I kind of made it easy. I tried to make sure I had own all the. That's the other thing. Own your domains. Like anything today or tomorrow, own your domains, because once someone else owns it, it's gonna make it much harder for you to get it. So if you're trying to do anything with their name, any type of branding and business, go buy your name on every platform from TikTok. Even if you don't ever use it, you should have it, because then someone else could use it as you. So just, that's a little tip for anyone who wants to do what I'm doing or just has any business aspirations, to go buy that stuff now, because if someone else buys it, you have to buy it off of them. They could charge you as much as they would like for it. So that's that. You can find us at yachtclub.company on Instagram, and also that is our email, yachtclub.company, as well as our website. So we try to make it easy for you. I don't have too many things to. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Travels by Love Language is also my brand. It's on my website. I have crop tops for the summer for the ladies.
Yes.
You know, so just trying to do different things, keep it fun. But what I wanted to have was like a very comfortable travel t-shirt. And so that's what I aim to do. And I'm working on having a few more come out before the summer's over for you guys too.
All right. So y'all heard, stay tuned. More to come from the John Robert. Again, John, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with Black Travel Talks today. And I look forward to watching your journey. I'm going to be following you on everything, and you might see me pop at a trip. So I'll see you soon and speak to you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, John. Bye.